Now how can the sons and daughters of slaves owe any kind of money when the Western economy was built on chattels? This are no chip on my shoulder. Just true.
Okay, it's actually been roughly 35 years. Started in, no, 17, funny enough. How can I say it? I started attending sound system dances when I was around 12 years of age. First big sound I heard was Jatobis, funny enough, yeah. There was a library down the bottom of my road and called Library Hall. You know, there was regular dancers there, you know. And Tubbies used to rip down that building, man, rip it down away, you know. So that was my first inception of sound system, you know. But I grew up in a place where there was a lot of sound systems around, you know what I mean? A place called Forest Gate, you know. They had a club called Celebrities where all the biggest sounds in the world, man, used to pass through there. Cox and, you know, sax and everybody, Shaka. You know what I mean? So at the age of 12, man, you know, my cup was full, you know. When I was 14, 1980, January, there was a dance in Dalston, a club called Cubies, and Shaka was playing there. Quaker City was supposed to be playing with him that night, but Quaker didn't turn up. The great Quaker City, yeah? So that was my first Shaka dance. I went with my big brother, Joseph, you know, and that was like a rebirth for me, you know. It was a different experience, something I never experienced before. It was like a biblical experience, really. I was a sort of Christian youth at them days. I used to attend the Pentecostal church, and going to a Shaka dance was like, you know, I could relate, you know what I mean, through the biblical lyrics in the tune, in the music. So, fast tracking forward, I had a brethren, them days, brethren called Jaleni. You know, he was a multi-instrumentalist, you know. And one day he brought a bass guitar to me, you know, 3 strings on it. And from there, I started just playing along with the Shaka tunes, you know, the tunes I would hear Shaka playing the dances. And it just grew from there, really, you know. The better I got, you know, I started linking up with other musicians. This was around, I think, 1984 sort of time, you know, when this all started. And started attending youth centers where there were jam sessions, very good musicians, you know, so I learned my sort of craft in these jam sessions, as well as church. I used to play in church as well, you know. So yeah, it sort of started there, you know. I don't want to go too far for the question, you know, but yeah, that's when my inception started. And I've always been a very inquisitive person, you know what I mean? So I was very curious about recording as well, you know. So natural progression, you know. It was from the bass guitar, playing drums, keys, gits, and then eventually getting into recording. Musically, I have to say Bob Marley, because the kind of first LP that I really heard, I sat down and listened to and got into was Rastaman Vibration. Bob Marley, that was mid-70s. I think I was probably 10 or something, you know, like 9 or 10 years of age. But Rastaman Vibration, so that was Bob Marley, you know. He was a great sort of inspiration in them days. And then my real inspiration was Jah Shaka. You know, from that first time I heard Shaka in Dalston, Cubies Club, you know, Shaka was inspiring, you know what I'm saying? He was real. Shaka had like the answers to the social issues we had of the day, you know what I'm saying? There was a lot going on for the black youths at that time, as there still is. And Shaka just seemed to bridge a gap that was there in our lives, you know, so. Jah Shaka is the main inspiration for me, the main. If we're going to talk about artists, there's so many artists, there's so many inspiring artists, you know what I mean? But when it comes to singers, songwriters. I listen to Pablo Moses a lot, you know. Yeah, I find him a very profound singer and songwriter, you know, and arranger. Pablo Moses and Delroy Williams, back in the day. You know, these guys were really good arrangers, you know what I mean, of songs. And really meaningful lyrics. So, yeah, Naga Morris, you know. Yeah, that spiritual vibe, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'd say artist-wise, them, sound system, just Shaka. We're talking about 70s and 80s now, you know what I mean? Going into the 90s, you know, it's Abba Shanti. Abba Shanti took up the reins, you know what I mean? With the spiritual vibe, you know? By that time, things were changing in sound system, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like the mid-80s, going into the early 90s, things had started changing with the development of digital equipment and stuff like that. And digital recordings from Jamaica, you know, when things changed, like the whole mood of the music changed. So there was only a couple of sounds really holding up the vibe, you know what I mean? That was like Abba Shanti, Jashaka, Channel One, you know what I mean? Keety Roots. Yeah, you know, so that's my inspiration, you know?
And the priest and the elders. And the number of them.
Okay, Black Legacy Records. Well, the name Black Legacy Records was blessed to me by my brethren, Tenastilin, the great artist Tenastilin, you know? Yeah, so that was blessed to me by Tenor. Around, I think my first release was around 1989, I believe, on Black Legacy Records, you know? Yeah, it's just about the legacy of the black vibration, you know what I mean? Which I'm a legacy of, you know, through my ancestors, you know what I mean? And I'm just a continuation of the vibes that's been handed down to me, basically, you know, from the greats of Jamaica, where the inception of roots reggae music come from, reggae music, you know what I mean? And I'm the legacy of that, you know, so handing it down, you know, it's handed down to me. I hope I can, you know, hand it down with honor, you know what I'm saying? And so that's the vibe. That's what Black Legacy means, you know what I'm saying? It's the Black liberation struggle that is forward and true, you know what I mean? You know, yeah. Reparations is it's a deep story, you know. It's it's not a story, it's a fact, you know. This thing is all about chattel slavery. It's about people have called it many things: the Black Holocaust, you know, the kidnapping, imprisonment of Africans, you know what I mean? Since the 16th century, you know. Well, we know it was going on before that. But we're talking about the transatlantic slave trade through the title of chattel slavery, you know what I mean? You know, where they justified the whole thing by dehumanizing the Africans and saying that they're 3/5 of a human being, you know what I'm saying? So even through their Bible, they justified the transatlantic slave trade. And that's what reparations is all about, the atrocities that occurred over, we could say, 4 centuries, you know what I mean? And still occurring, to tell the truth. You know what I'm saying? There's, I could write novels on it. There's so much, you know what I'm saying? But that's the vibe. That's what reparations is all about. It's all about the disenfranchisement, dehumanizing, you know, marginalizing of diaspora Africans, you know what I'm saying? And even Africans, because the European went back into Africa and recolonized the whole place, you know what I'm saying? So, to cut long story short, the African diaspora, we've been inconvenienced and held back over all other races for centuries. So we're playing catch up, basically, you know what I'm saying? You know, they were doing all manner of things to the slaves, you know? They were, well, as far as they were concerned, they were human beings, so they treated them like animals, you know? They were doing experimentations on them and all kind of things. Medical advancement is because of You know, they used the slaves to I mean, to do their researches on. You know what I'm saying? So it's a deep thing, you know. It's a gory story, you could call it. You know what I'm saying? And so the point being, where is the reparation? You know what I'm saying? For the dehumanizing of people. Where's the reparation? You know. Today, black people are still marginalized, disenfranchised globally. You know what I'm saying? You know, we're still set back. We're still the bottom tier of any ladder in any society. You know what I'm saying? You know, these are the things that people don't really want to hear, but it's the truth. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to go into other races that have been had reparations for whatever atrocities they've been through. But today, I've seen none of you know, my people, my ancestry. You know, my parents hailed through the colony of Grenada in the Caribbean. You know what I'm saying? Which is slave plantation. You know what I mean? All of the Americas, slave plantations. Brazil, massive slave plantation. You know what I'm saying? Open prisons. You know what I'm saying? And there's a time they say they abolished slavery, and there was massive compensation packages that were paid out to the Europeans, you know? And the cheek of it is that through the years, yeah, where they allowed black people to integrate into society, go to school, educate themselves, and ultimately build businesses and get jobs and stuff, we've actually been paying, through our taxes, we've been paying towards the compensation package. I mean, that's crazy.